Hi guys, I want to go through some pieces of art that I've created over the years. In 1998, I wrote my original design. I was thinking of a brand called Think, that was a skate company. And I came up with this design using the actual mouse on the computer. And that was the original design of what I actually wanted to register. What I did register as a standard character, I revised it and it's developed over the years, but it started out with that design in 1998. This is the same design, 1998. I very much liked forest green and I liked yellow green, and it was just something that worked for me. I had a lot of interceptions of this actual communication, a lot of different problems with people who have been fraudulent of the honesty surrounding this process. It is an inverse tort that happened to the general public in Marin County that is called a Charlie deal in the entertainment industry. I have a guitar that is a toilet seat that represents a bum deal of just, you know, being behind the toilet seat. And this is technically the document of its correction and the attempt to form something that is a little more reputable than, you know, the local bar and its defamations, right? And also the downfalls of its actions. I have escaped that personally, and I have moved on. I also came up with a second styling opposite of my original California Life design, and I knew that it was one word, so it was Caliph, but I called it Calife, right? It was fancy. It was, you know, it was what people were doing. There was a brand called Aniche that existed at the time, and it was just something that came. We used to joke about Target and all this different stuff. So then I came up with this, which is the version of that improperly got associated to, you know, Islam, right? So I had to figure out how to go between these two, right? I had to figure out how to go between these two actual designs. I had to figure out what my concept was and how it worked. But these are the two original designs. These are the two original designs. They're both extreme opposites technically, and the process of working that out is what I have done here. I have done that with different creative ideas and also what I was going to put in a final form. There's been tons of hurdles in doing this. It has been severely not easy, and it's taken about 25 years at this point. So like I said, this is the second design. These are some design effects that I did off the iMac that was going on. Caliph Incorporated is what I wanted to do. I wanted to make it a record label and a clothing company. You know, it was short-sighted in how I originally thought about it. It didn't come to fruition at all. It was never used in any form of my knowledge or understanding. I've checked tons of internet traps. I've done all the Google searches. I've done so many different things. Now, the last 10 years, I have been slightly defamed, and my private court life has been exposed to the public. And they act as if I'm a public domain, potentially. I don't know if that's true, but this is something that I posted on Facebook. That is a design off an Apple iMac from, you know, early 2000s or mid 2000s that referenced something that I did in 2003, and that I posted on Facebook in around 2009, right? When the concerns of fraud started popping up surrounding a school called SAE. This is another design of Caliph Incorporated that I wanted to do. It was something that once I developed a personal relationship with God, or whatever you want to call it, I started not feeling that uncomfortable about talking about or representing California Life. And then this was something that I needed to meld together, and I hadn't figured out how quite yet, just in my brain and the way the world worked. So there's a signature version of what I wanted to do. I'll show you some t-shirts surrounding the stuff that I actually made. Here's another concept of every county in California, Marin being the headlands and the beginning of it all. This is a black and white or a grayscale of a piece of artwork that was going to be the first exploited piece of art in the corporation. It is a piece of art done by an artist named Alexandra Guzzi. I don't know where her whereabouts are. I do own the piece of artwork. It is something that I have with me. And yeah, and I'd be going from there. Technically, it's a you know, it's a severe consideration of life. Documenting art in what I regard as negative law, in the inverse tort of my life, which came from a Charlie deal of us trying to, you know, in Mill Valley, make it as just a bunch of rock and rollers in the 1980s and 90s, and the young dreams of a family that didn't quite come correctly, or that didn't quite work out in the long run. This is another concept. When I started realizing what I would put on a building, it would be, if I'd made my own typewriter and I actually carved the actual letters and symbols myself. You know what I mean? How would I do that? Well, the only way I could do it was with a piece of graphite, so I started developing the actual final mark. This is around 2010. And that is, and let's see, there's another one. And then it keeps going and it gets to a final form in the end, right? So I just kept developing. I just kept developing what I was doing. You know, each little thing, each thing that's off, just redoing it, and redoing it, and redoing it, tracing it and redoing it, tracing it and redoing it, tracing it and redoing it, tracing it, and then coming to something that was pretty close to the final idea. I smudged it, made it very artsy and cool, and then I set out to do something that was very permanent. But that was that was like the 2010, you know, if I hung it on the side of a brick and mortar building, I had to stare at it every day. That's how I wanted to do it, and I wanted it to be one word. And then I came up with this from just the concept of what it truly meant in definition, right? I had registered as a standard character. I actually have that reference of previous registry, and I went to proprietary design just to be more specific and to narrow down all the problems and to get rid of all the issues. And I just started developing something from a signature mark, which I showed you earlier, which was Calif-Ware. I raised the A and made it capital, and I separated it and made it one word, and I started developing how it turned into an actual design and how I actually wanted it to be. And I've been doing that quite a while. I added something, the concept of water wars, which would be a hurdle in California, is how Southern California and Northern California get along, surrounding Brian Stowe and all these different things that marked this original really peaceful engagement in the year 2000 when Pacific Bell Park opened. My father was a foreman with Local 6 in San Francisco, and he walked on the field and opened the actual game. They flew fighter jets over, and they made t-shirts, and they were Dodgers versus Giants. And it was, you know, it was just a different era, right? And then 9/11 happened, and everything got all out of whack. But you know, just water wars was a thought, and I started developing from there. And I kept refining, and I kept refining. So year by year, you know, week by week, you know, every time I sat down to do something, it just changed. And eventually I took a picture, I enlarged it, you know, and I got to finer curves, you know what I mean, better curves and more specific corners, and you know, more detailed graphic ideas, and I just kept going and going and going, and then I realized that I was going to get someone to make a design and how I would color it and the background and this and that, and you know, I was going to have a screen printer make some shirts in a first production run. I ended up stitching one, which I'll show you in a minute. And I've just kind of refined it, you know, over as it goes, right? You know, I wanted to make a navy and mohair, and I kept going. I never dotted the I, because it's taken a long time to get every kink out, to look at it and get every problem out. But you know, the original one was kind of folded over. Then I went to the next one, and then to the next one, and then to the next one. So these are just pictures of traces mostly, but it's proving that I've processed this. I have concerns of a lot of theft in my life and a lot of fraud in terms of how this works out eventually. But these are all my documents of how I've been tracing a general design, right? Trying to make a very competent American corporation, based on fighting some things that are really, really intensely difficult to fight. That shouldn't have happened to me, and very much shouldn't be occurring in my life. I should be very easily a successful person in my own personal services that I would have been able to offer, and that didn't even happen because of how opposed the actual general world was to what I'd been doing. So I I've been thoroughly defamed in inverse tort, and this is just the beginning of me climbing out of it. That's another concept that came from a 2004 Mark III Mark, I think 2003. These are all records that could be subpoenaed, and we could do it that way if that is truly the case. But I think I'm going to provide to you quite enough information to get this going in the final actual registry and get an enforceable mark that people can, you know, organize their communities around. And a private corporation, no doubt, C corporation that is starting for my enforcement in the structure of how it operates. I've written bylaws. I have bylaws hanging on the wall. I have a shareholder agreement if we were to actually sell any structure of profit or anything like that. I'm going for seed investment. I'm going for a lot of stuff. Then I got, you know, a little more specific. I changed the curves and the edges, and I just kept developing and developing. This is around 2015 when I started doing this. I came up with the idea of material content form somehow. It was almost as if I had been examining my life very specifically, and that others were quite possibly as well. And I came up with some ideas that would go on, you know, CD cases and stuff like that. But once again, that's how I wanted the final mark to be, or at least the original mark to be, is California and life melded into one word and made very specifically Caliph, originally Caliphate, and it means California life, and it's speaking of California life and how it interacts with the world potentially. As Americans, I very much want that to be distinctly true and known by people, and I enforce that by very specifically several badges that I have. Either way, I do that to the fullest extent of the law in my ability, and honoring honesty and integrity in the process for developing a standard that increases the quality of life that I participate in. And I'm going to show you a couple shirts that I've made over the years. I'll give you some timelines about them. So let's see. So we have the original design, you know, and it was going to be a company that, you know, men and women's jeans, right? And clothing, wear was a popular thing at the time. You know, it was still young and in development, and that's where it is. So, and also the resemblance to Cal was unacceptable to me. I mean, it worked, but it's a design that references something called a brand called Think, which was an old skateboard company. And moving on, here's another one of those. I used to use Foot Locker t-shirts. They used to sell them by the, you know, by the 5 or 3 or whatever it was, back when Foot Locker was open. This is a 2004 design. I want to say August 2003, but it could be August 2004. No, I think it's August 2003. Either way, Caliph Incorporated was the thought. Making a big label, big old fancy record label. Did a bunch of cool stuff in California. And like I said, the first piece of exploitable artwork that I ever had was a painting done by a high school girlfriend that I very much love. Wish the best for. And yeah, and I've just moved completely forward with my personal life, but that'll be the first exploitable design. I like adding that just because then we came to, if I had like a, you know, kind of a standard shirt, you know, a standard shirt would be kind of like that, which is just a concept. Technically, a lot of this stuff is really concept and not in final form. This was very close to final form around 2014. When I was deciding to stitch my own piece of canvas onto a shirt and try to make my own things. You know, obviously I want to make my own shirts. If I were to do that, but I don't want to launch a clothing company. You know, an apparel company inside of a department store is something that, you know, would be a lot different. So these are all just, you know, design logo ideas. I've used these, you know, around town and stuff like that, and I've put them on the internet over the years. That's about the use that I've done. People know me for this. In reality, it was a big failure in people's opinions, and that is actually how they treated me, as the failure of Caliphate. in high school and afterwards. You know, it was a joke. You know, Caliphate was a joke. You know, it wasn't the cool thing that was happening. So I just had to continue trying to figure out how to properly go about my life and gain some credibility, you know. And that's where I've gone. It's just you know, professionally designing something that could be recognized as standard on a building one day, of people who buy reputable products and enjoy, you know, entertainment media that gets put out. So you know, then I started painting and stuff, and it just continued. And these are all, you know, kind of painting ideas, the idea of the painting that I would be doing surrounding the Charlie deal. If I were to, you know, where the Charlie deal all started, which is the guitar, and me buying one, and the actual function of my life in the entertainment industry is in Mill Valley. That's just kind of the color scheme that I want to go for. It's close. It's not perfect. It's a little orange and a little blue, but we'll see how I get to a final color choice in the future when I submit actual color, proprietary color, you know, choices. And you know, this is just kind of the idea. Again, you know, I want a giant entertainment studio. I want a casino resort. I want a record company inside of an entertainment studio grounds. And I want a retail store. I want to be known on the internet. I want to be a popular hub of entertainment and product. And it is business and advertising that I have registered, because truly these marks represent business, which is the exchange of money and commerce, and advertising being something that people recognize as notable. So that's what I've put together. Several other things, I guess. You know, just different things that I've done to make different marks. Stencil of the original. It's a little leaned in the original, right? So I straightened it up a little bit, and it came to a more standing up version, which I liked. So I refine it every year, and I'd resubmit it every year. This is a stencil that I made. It got destroyed by an unknown trespasser. I'm not sure who did it. It took about 2-3 days to hand carve this stencil out. And I went all the way around the edges, and I carved even the little small things out. And it was just hand done, so it wasn't perfect. It wasn't like a laser machine did it, you know, after a graphic designer made it perfect. It was just something that I had to do with what I'm capable of doing. And that is something that I did there. So I've registered essentially that mark with small alterations. Once again, I've just always been working between California Life and Calif in one word, and Cali Life melded together was how I came up with it. I have several, you know, different conceptual structures. This is if I did a neon sign, how I would have bent the tubing. You know, sign and display in San Francisco could have done a neon thing. That would have been really cool. That would have been one of the designs. Here's one of the a proof of 2003, which isn't the copyright that I have on a zip drive, which is the original mark reference. And these are just other things that I've done that reference all the stuff that's occurred surrounding, you know, the disorganization of me. To be honest, it's called a dishevelment. It's something that functions in life, and it's something that technically Donkey Kong has been fighting his whole life also. And I don't like knowing how specific that is, but it's true. And yeah, I'm trying to make something positive out of that force. So, you know, the Bears, the state, California living circa 2003, you know, signature Fraser wear, you know, Fraser Mountain, you know, that's what I am. So I've always done little things to try to figure out how to make cool stuff, and I realized I needed a standard. Oh, that's, you know, I had some downfalls as a youth in rap music, but either way, I also got defamed because I never would have put that type of stuff out. Either way, you know, that's where we're, and I literally have still, if there's music out there anywhere that you've heard of me being Frage from Mill Valley, I've never licensed it ever. I've never expressly written any consent surrounding it. So I'd love to have it taken down and completely forgotten about, technically, to launch an actual professional career of a major consideration of household enjoyment. Either way, Caliphate jeans for women oh so wonderful, you guys. I mean, I had a lot of interesting thoughts, you know, but it was Caliphate. It was always Cali life. You know, and that's what I got to dream about my whole life. Trying to make it real has been a funding issue, which hopefully Blue Whale will get back to me about sometime here in the future. Once again, maybe I should talk about the date and time, and of course I don't have that on me. Give me 1 second. That's another original design. I put the dot in between both of them to make sure that they knew it was California life. I didn't like that people started attacking me about some form of British, French, and Middle Eastern Islam that I've never heard of or experienced in my life, and I don't want to. It's you know, it's American business of innocence, you know, not some gigantic fucking, gigantic tort of American life function. Either way, I wanted Snoop Dogg to wear my smoking clothing brand by Caliphate. Originally, I thought he might be the artist who could have blown me up with a t-shirt, a really cool launch kind of thing about how great California was. Either way, and I wanted to have the whole world in my hands, at least California, and then the whole world as well has been thought about in the long run. These are just things that I've done, and I wanted to show them to you. I've documented my Circular 40 very well. I haven't put them in the actual system yet. Technically, I'd have to roll them into tubes and send them to the Library of Congress, and I don't think I'm that official quite yet. I think we still have a ways to go for that to be that official, considering how much it costs. So thank you so much. Let me see if I can get the date and time really quick. I'll be right back. I don't like leaving the frame in a date and time reference, but I can't get to it right now. Either way, Thursday. No, today's Wednesday. It's Wednesday at 11/16, 2023, and the month is. I'm a time traveler, okay? June, apparently. All right. Thank you so much for everything. All right. Talk to you later.